Hi, welcome to financialexpress.com budget special. We have with us Prashant from KPMG. He is an M&A expert. And yes, that's a very esoteric area, but it does impact you. In fact, it impacts all of us. How companies buy and sell each other is a very critical part of business. It helps create jobs, it helps grow the economy, and Prashant will tell us how India can create a much more conducive environment for mergers and acquisitions. So what's on your top of your demand list, Prashant?
So see, if we see the state of India at this point of time, India would still require a lot of foreign investment. And when we see the provisions around making the investment very conducive and also the tax issues around those investments, I think the government has to, while government has done enough in the last 2 years, but they still have to do a little bit more. As we know that from 1st April, general anti-avoidance rules will going to get implemented. The government has yet to come up with the guidelines around, as we call GAR. They have to have a clear roadmap at how GAR will going to get implemented, which will have an impact on the foreign investment and foreign investor. They also have to see the interplay of GAR along with the various treaties which got renegotiated. They also have to see the interplay with BEPS, which is the base erosion and profit split. They also have to make a clear thought process that how, if there are specific anti-avoidance rules which are being given either in the treaty or in the domestic law, how the whole SAR versus GAR will go to get interplayed. So if I need to sum up on the GAR front, clearly the roadmap, the guidelines and the whole interplay of SAR versus GAR has to be thought through and has to be given to the foreign investor. Other than that, if I see the overall rate of tax, it has to be far more lucrative for foreign investor. So if we see the corporate tax rate along with the dividend distribution tax rate, the overall tax rate for a foreign investor, it actually comes out to approximately 45 to 46%. So the government has to see that how this rate can actually come down as a combination of reduction of dividend distribution tax and also as the commitment has given to reduce the corporate tax rate. So as a combination of two, if this rate comes down, the overall tax return, or I would say the investment return out of India would be far more higher. The third point, which I would say, which is extremely critical, are the place of effective management provisions or the provisions relating to that. So in that case, the government has to have a clear roadmap that how the whole POEM related provisions will going to get implemented, and the intermingle of CFC along with POEM would need to be seen that how the government has to go forward on the roadmap around that.
Prashant, you spoke about the POM and the CFC bit. Can you just elaborate it a little more so that our readers our viewers can understand it better?
Place of effective management are the provisions which were inserted in Finance Act 2015. The provisions resulted in determining the residential status of a foreign company, while even an Indian company, but in the context of foreign investment, this would determine the residential status of a foreign company. Now, the final rules are yet to come in, and in the absence of rules, these provisions cannot be made effective. The consideration of a foreign investor is that instead of a POEM, which is a place of effective management rules, the government should consider taxing the passive income, and which can come through CFC or the controlled foreign corporations which are there in the Western world. So in case the government want to consider taxing the passive income, which should be the way forward, what the government should consider is to defer POEM or maybe abolish, and in lieu of POEM, they should consider the CFC provisions to come in the act, which would go a long way when it comes to see from a foreign investment perspective.
So you spoke about the tax rate for foreign investors. How does the tax rate in India compare with other similar emerging economies?
So very clearly, so the emerging economies, if you see, are much lower than the India tax rate, and the overall tax rate cannot be seen only as the corporate tax rate, but also if the foreign investors make profits out of Indian investments, they also have to take the profits out. So it has to be seen as a combination of both the tax on the profits as well as tax to earn profits.
And so while this is on the wish list, what all do you think is likely to happen in the budget?
So, whilst clearly a whole idea around GAR and the roadmap around it should definitely be there. The government should be really clear in terms of what this roadmap would be. For a private equity or a foreign portfolio investor, there should clearly be a clarification or an amendment to suggest that they would not going to be doubly taxed. While we have seen the evidence of the CBDT circular has been put in abeyance by the government, and hopefully the government would like to come up with the clarification or the amendment, one, either to avoid this double taxation or to say that the provisions of indirect transfer don't apply to foreign portfolio investors or the private equity.
So apart from GAR, any other policy change or any other tax change that you think is significant for M&A?
I would say that if you see in India and the whole Make in India story, there would be a lot of thrust on new entrepreneurs, new startups, and any policy regime around the startups would be welcome. This should also add up to the whole growth story of India, with more and more entrepreneurs getting into a startup mode, and any kind of tax regime to give them incentive, to give them a gestation for a particular period would going to be a welcome step.
Thank you, Prashant. Thank you so much for the insight that you've given us on this sector. Keep watching financialexpress.com for more budget insights.